comes around. It really is a pretty easy boss, and since you have to fight that flying dragon 4 or 5 times at least throughout the game, you end up getting pretty good at figuring out how to get past the fireballs. There's only 2 versions of that dragon in the game. That one, and then one that shoots, I think, an additional fireball. That's the only difference. The same sprite, the same color, there's no difference in them. They don't really move any differently, other than I think one shoots 5 fireballs, and that one that I just killed, I think, shoots 4 before it flies up. Yeah, that was the only difference. By killing that dragon, though, I got the first item, like the story item that I'm gonna really need, the matak, aka pickaxe, which I'll go over to the right here, and you're gonna see a wall with, hey look, there's 2 bricks that aren't the same color as the other ones. Hey look, I can use my pickaxe or my matak on it, and I open it up, and now I can continue on and go up and down these ladders. So yeah, the first dungeon is complete. Yeah. It took a lot of effort to prepare to get on the journey, but the first dungeon took us a matter of minutes. Yeah, that's basically how it's supposed to go. But since I got my weapon, which is really all I needed. It was just a weapon in order to get through the area. It was good to make sure I had plenty of magic, just so I didn't have to risk losing to that dragon at the beginning. Basically, just something to start off easy, not have to have too much worry to be able to continue on. The dungeons do get more challenging and more complex as we go on, so they're not as straightforward as that first dungeon, including the final dungeon in the game, which is one of those big mazes with looping parts and all that good fun stuff that happened in certain NES adventure games that can be a real pain in the butt to deal with without knowing exactly where to go. But thankfully, I have a direct path to get through that dungeon, so it'll be pretty easy to get through that when I get to it. Now here comes where I'm going to start in every town, but I basically need health. I'm just going to go to the dried meat butcher guy here, even though he has other items on his shelves and everything. The only thing he has for sale is dried meat, and it fills up my health a good amount. So same with my magic meter. It's much more beneficial and usually a lot cheaper to go ahead and just buy a couple of dried meat servings than it is to go ahead to the doctor and buying a full health heal and all that stuff. Now in this third town of the game, I'm buying my second sword, my long sword, which I'm going to have for most of the run. I will get the third weapon later on, which I'm going to need to probably do a little bit of grinding in order to afford it. Now I'm going to go ahead and buy some keys here. I'm going to be needing probably an extra key or 2. But I can buy the second key, which is the queen key, which I'm going to make sure I buy at least. I'm going to need a couple of them in order to get through the game. Unfortunately, I don't have enough to just kind of stock up as many as I'm going to need. So I will go ahead and buy one here. Wait for him to say thank you, so I can, do something. And now walk off. Okay, now our next goal is to hit 3 different little fountains in order to activate the bigger fountain to get the water kind of going again. That first dungeon really just had a point of getting that pickaxe. So now that we actually have kind of a goal now, here's what we're doing. We're going up here first, and this first little area is more of a complex dungeon. We actually have 2 areas that we'll have to go through in this dungeon. There we go, and use the key. And now here is the second dungeon of the game. And this one, like I said, is a little bit more complex than the first one. Go ahead and stab this guy. There we go. It actually would help if I equipped my longsword. Yeah, that probably would help me a little bit. If I actually, gave myself the correct equipment that I should be using. Heading all the way over, kill this guy real quick because he does drop a nice portion of bread, which fills up my health a little bit. There we go, now I'm up to full health. Kill this guy from afar with the fireballs before trying to make the attempt of the jump. Like I said, my biggest complaints in the game have to probably be the controls and that whole dialogue thing with the item screens. Like, you get hit and you end up bouncing off, and it can be a real annoyance, especially when trying to make precise jumping on certain things. Also, it's one of the few games that I really remembered on the NES where you didn't press a button to run, you just kept walking straight for a couple seconds and you gained momentum and you start to speed up. Which can be annoying to make certain jumps, because just standing still and trying to make a jump more than likely is not going to work. You have to get a running or a walking start in order to build up the speed to get the longer jump out of it. Which I guess is kind of cool to have that, that little extra gameplay element of having to walk fast, get speed built up or whatever. I guess more realistic, maybe. I don't know. I think most people can just start running. I don't think they need to get a walking start to get a running thing going, but oh well. Either way, continuing on. Now here is this is actually a boss, even though it looks kind of like it should be a boss. This is a big giant enemy that we'll have to deal with a few times. But he's really easy to stay on the edge here and just keep poking him with my sword. He dies and he gives me a good amount of money, so he's good if you want to build up some money quickly. But I'm going to wait till later to build up some money. Now here's the second boss. Kind of reminds me of the Slee Stacks from Land of the Lost. You know, the lizard people that were on the, that were always kind of like the secondary main villains of the show. Anyway, yeah, it shows you how much useless knowledge I have. Anyway, by quickly killing him, by stabbing him in the back, because he doesn't seem to want to look behind him to notice that I somehow easily came around to get to him, by killing him, I get a pair of winged boots, which I'm going to need in order to get to the next fountain. And there's two instances where I'm going to have the winged boots in order to advance in the game. One pair they gave you here, and the other pair I'm going to have to go ahead and purchase in order to continue. Now, throughout the game, there's random rooms in the game that will drop certain items, whether or not they're poison bottles, health, potions, the winged boots, extra pickaxes or matocks, and other things. And you can manipulate it so that you can by entering and exiting and re-entering the room, and every time you clear it, you have a possibility of getting one of those items. Now, each room's already predetermined whether or not it's going to have one of those items, so you can know ahead ahead of time or not, whether your efforts are going to be worth it or not. So you need winged boots. You can go and enter one room, kill everything. Hey, you didn't get them this time. Exit, come back into that room, kill everything again, and you have another opportunity to possibly get that pair of winged boots out of it. As you can see, that was a weird glitch that the guy is now kind of floating on the bottom screen and he won't go anywhere. Just a little programming glitch, I guess. And our goal for this little room is that old man standing up there, which we go up here to deal with the flies, the giant flies, get around them. Here we go. And talk to him, and we're going to give him an elixir, which will get the fountain here going. But, so yeah, you can easily manipulate it by re-entering and, entering and re-entering rooms in order to get certain items, which a lot of people would do, especially speedrun people, I guess, would do that, in order to get certain items. It's great to have winged boots. There's another item, the hourglass, which I will probably only need to use once, which I know a way to easily get a hold of it. But I'll probably need to use it. I'm going to need to use it against one certain boss. This item that I'm going to pick up here real quick is a nice little item. It's in invulnerability for a short period of time, this ointment that you get. And all it does is I don't flash, I don't have any special star music or anything, but no enemy can hurt me. I can just walk through every enemy for a short period of time. And the good thing about the game is, even though they don't tell you anything with music or you're flashing or anything, a little menu pops up for a quick second, a quick text box that says, hey, look, your power's run out, so now you're going to get hurt if you continue to get hit. So it does warn you, even though it doesn't have, annoying star music or anything. You can, of course, use that to your advantage if you know what room can possibly spawn them. Of course, re-entering the same room over and over again can gain you an ointment so that you can go through. I know I've seen runs of the game where they'll get an ointment in the final dungeon, go right through and kill the final boss from being invulnerable in the room. So that is an advantage, but I don't highly recommend it unless I also seen that run that you needed winged boots in order to quickly get to the boss, but I'm probably not going to have winged boots at that point in the game. So, like I said, I'm going to use the one pair I get freely from killing the Slee Stack boss from the last dungeon, which I'm going to use actually in the next screen. Which you would never know this unless you talk to some of the townspeople and some of the gurus and stuff that will give you little hints, of course, of how to find me, all the little hidden stuff. So I use the winged boots, and now I can just kind of float up. Kind of a little weird, just kind of floating like that. Kind of a interesting animation. I just kind of keep floating up. I don't have to hit the button multiple times to keep like flapping the wings or anything. They just let me soar nicely up into the sky. And there's another old man who has nowhere to go. He can't move, he can't do anything. His whole job is just to stand there next to the broken spring. And he ends up falling asleep while telling me about the water being poisoned. Wow, he couldn't even get his whole story out before he fell asleep. That's actually quite funny. So anyway, after a long amount of speaking, he gets the fountain working again. So now we have 2 of the fountains out of 3. We need one more fountain left, and to get the last fountain going, which we couldn't do before, we had to do that second one that I just did with the winged boots to get to that one. once I got that second one unlocked, all of a sudden the guru, who is somewhere hidden, or the priest, who's hidden inside that second dungeon with the sleeve stack, he will now give us a key that we need in order to enter in that door at the bottom there. We actually get a ring from him that allows us to enter that door at the bottom, as my winged boots have now run out. That's an annoyance thing in the game, that some reason you can't do certain things until you activated it, so I had to go talk to that old guy who falls asleep to activate that second fountain before I could come back in here in order to go ahead and get the item that we're going to need to open that last door. I could have gone ahead and bought winged boots and just flown up there anyway and activated it, but I didn't want to take the time to use the money that way to go ahead and buy winged boots. Since they have a boss specifically given to you so you can get winged boots, I figured I might as well go fight him. Plus, he was really easy to deal with, so it was worth the